Meet Muruki. He's a smallholder farmer in Sub-Saharan Africa. Muruki does not own a lot of land and struggles to make a living. He does not have the money to buy expensive farm equipment and fertilizer, and sometimes struggles with finding a buyer for his crops at a fair price. Sometimes his crops will even expire. How do we improve Muruki's income? Let's take a look at the situation in Sub-Saharan Africa. Agriculture is one of the main forces driving economic growth, where in some cases it contributes up to 50% of the GDP. 80% of the farmland in Sub-Saharan Africa is managed by smallholders working on less than 10 hectares, and 175 million people were directly hired by smallholder farms. Food availability needs to double by 2050, but agricultural productivity is stagnating. Furthermore, GDP growth originating in agriculture is at least twice as effective in reducing poverty compared to GDP growth originating outside of agriculture. The global food system has been shown to be highly inefficient, with up to 50% of crop value vanishing between harvest and the point of sale. There's a lack of transparency throughout the supply chain, as many farmers rely on paper-based accounting systems and verbal promises, resulting in corruption and fraud. There's a multitude of stakeholders and processes in the distribution system, making most product data untraceable. There are long chains of intermediaries, which ultimately increases the price for the customer, and unfavorable market access and incentives limit the capacity to produce high-quality products. So how can these problems be solved? Introducing AgriLedger, a smartphone app created by AgUnity, an organization which enables the world's smallest and poorest farmers to have access to a means to lift themselves out of poverty through smartphone and blockchain solutions. The app records and transacts incorruptible data through blockchain technology, allowing data to be kept safe and tamper-proof. It addresses the problem of lack of trust, allowing farmers to cooperate, share equipment, and maximize productivity. They work with NGOs who fund them to provide phones and the application to farmers for free. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is a publicly viewable database that is distributed, versioned, and tamper-proof. Blockchain has certain properties that can help with 1. Lack of transparency. Market players that couldn't establish trust before due to geographical proximity can now enter into new markets. 2. Verbal promises. Blockchain is incorruptible, meaning data that goes on the blockchain cannot be changed and can ensure validity of transactions. 3. Unfair pricing. Crop prices fluctuate based on demand, weather, and global production levels. Blockchain can provide parties access to similar transactions. Suppliers are able to determine what their harvest is worth and sell it reflective of the global market conditions. 4. Audits. Blockchain-based solutions can allow anyone to audit the data since it's publicly viewable. 5. Simplification of deliveries. Smart contracts that run on the blockchain can eliminate long chains of intermediaries and lower the final price for the customer. 6. Product tracking issues. Blockchain is versioned, meaning that the complete trail of product data is stored at all times. AgriLedger facilitates the use of cooperatives, a group of farmers who pool resources together to achieve greater economies of scale, bargaining power, and communication amongst members. It's designed so that once the farmer's income has increased, AgriLedger can provide things like solar kits, pumps, and microloans to customers through the app. Looking at AgriLedger's theory of change, the necessary inputs are app developers, smartphones, and funding. The activities involve distribution, forming strategic partnerships, as well as marketing and awareness. The output of the process are the smartphones and AgriLedger app being delivered to the smallholder farmers. Outcomes include collaboration between the farmers, reduced food spoilage, and fairer prices. This leads to the goal of increased income for farmers, lifting them out of poverty. Here's how a typical example would work. Farmers would enter into the planning section of the app that they want their fields seeded. The cooperative, as well as the seeder, would see the message and organize a time for the seeder to come seed numerous fields at a time. The seeder arrives at the first farm and shows his QR code on the app to the farmer, containing the details of the job. The farmer scans the QR code and sees the details of the job and the price on his phone. The farmer accepts the transaction and a QR code is generated on his phone. The seeder scans this QR code and parties have a record of the transaction. The seeder seeds the field with his machine and moves on to the next farm. Eventually, the farmer would sell his crop through the cooperative, and the cooperative collects the money. AgriLedger allocates the correct amount that each farmer owed, and the seeder is paid collectively from the cooperative for all the farms they seeded that day. Finally, when the farmer goes to collect his money from the cooperative for the sales of their crop, the deduction from the seeding job is already applied. Other current use cases for AgriLedger include farmers being able to post what they have for sale, pool together resources to rent, buy, and share equipment such as combine harvesters, producing higher quality products by having their products processed together, the ability to pay later rather than upfront, and being able to track their goods through the buying and selling process as it moves through the hands of the cooperative. There have been other similar endeavors that have been successful. Two examples are the IFCO Kisan Agriculture app in India, which is a mobile information portal for farmers, and M-Farm in Kenya, which is an SMS-based mobile app that provides up-to-date market prices for crops as well as group buying and selling tools. Although both of these tools have garnered widespread adoption, they have struggled with gaining the initial trust of their users. AgriLedger's blockchain-based solution is intended to overcome this. AgriLedger has been piloted to a group of farmers growing cocoa beans in Papua New Guinea. It was able to successfully solve the issues of an inadequate accounting system, too much food waste being generated, and farmers accepting poor prices for their crops by providing a platform for the honest exchange of goods. They were able to raise the revenue of the average farmer from $35 to $130 per month. Primary impacts of AgriLedger are that it encourages collaboration between farmers, ensures payments for all parties involved in a transaction, captures more value for the farmer, provides accurate and verifiable record keeping, and reduces food waste in the post-harvesting stage. Did you know that 50% of the cost cutting has been shown in pilot projects? In terms of economic impact, farmers are able to lower production costs by facilitating the sharing of resources and collective buying power for products such as fertilizer and processes such as fermentation and drying of seeds. Through AgriLedger, farmers can achieve a 3 times higher price for their goods by processing products as a cooperative. Transactions are designed to be very simple with a QR code that is scanned between the two transacting parties using the local currency. Transparency of the blockchain makes it easy to evaluate the credibility and gives access to a wider market for the buyers and the sellers. In Sub-Saharan Africa, more than 70% of food waste occurs during production and storage. With a 50% improvement of the production and post-harvest stage of the existing supply chain, it has been calculated that the GDP per capita can be increased by 25%. In addition, the use of cooperatives is projected to increase crop yield by 10%, thereby generating additional income for the farmers. In terms of social impact, AgriLedger improves transparency of information and makes information accessible for everyone. It also promotes environmental improvement. Pilot users have been shown to be more likely to utilize different crops and employ fertilizers, which helps to reduce soil degradation. Even though AgriLedger certainly has many benefits, it still faces significant challenges. Product challenges include 3 aspects: security, cost, and adoption. Phones from AgriLedger are loaded with the farmer's private key. That means that if someone else gains access to the phone, they could potentially perform transactions on behalf of the farmer. Transaction fees on the blockchain can be quite significant as more users are added. The current business model does not charge customers for any transaction fee, and this is not scalable. AgriLedger is currently able to purchase the actual phone for $25, but is looking to drive this down to $20 through cheaper suppliers. Another issue is that the success of the product depends on the adoption of the technology from enough parties. Sufficient number of people need to be using AgriLedger for their business model to actually work. Infrastructure is another major challenge facing AgriLedger. Access to electricity is the first step in establishing the infrastructure for smartphone charging, internet usage, and digital connectivity to markets. Only 35% of people in Sub-Saharan Africa have access to electricity. The The number for the rural population is even lower, at 19%. Without household electricity, farmers will need to turn to charging stations. The cost of charging a mobile phone in Africa can be as high as 25 cents per charge, which is 383 times more expensive than what it would cost in the United States. Many institutions are working hard to solve this issue. The Green Power for Mobile Program, the GPM, is one organization currently examining the potential for off-grid and inexpensive mobile charging solutions. Network coverage also is an impediment to AgriLedger's success. The mobile subscriber base in Sub-Saharan Africa currently has a penetration of 43%, but in 5 years, mobile data traffic is expected to grow by a cumulative annual growth rate of 66%, representing an enormous opportunity for AgriLedger. In Sub-Saharan Africa, mobile internet penetration is at 26%, and only 1 in 10 households is connected to the net. Also, the internet speed in Africa is amongst the slowest in the world, and unnecessary delays would threaten the adoption of blockchain technologies. Data encryption and identity management will attract the attention of the government. Corruption is prevalent within some governments, and the attempt to publicize transaction data would be their vested interest. The majority of the public are not aware of how this technology works, which may create wariness surrounding the product. Also, the former failure of other companies and NGOs have left some of the local population apprehensive. Furthermore, there are over 100 languages spoken in Africa, making it difficult to scale up. A high adult illiteracy rate at 59% makes it difficult for text-based applications to gain traction. Agricultural work takes up large amount of time and energy, making it difficult for farmers to learn this technology. Though there are many challenges, blockchain is still a promising technology to target agricultural issues in Sub-Saharan Africa. It can be considered an appropriate technology as it is simple to use, effective in its pilot studies so far, inexpensive for its users, has gained some political support, and is in line with infrastructural trends for Africa's future. SWOT analysis is used to analyze the business model of AgriLedger. AgriLedger's unique value proposition is that it's the only organization providing a smartphone, blockchain, and cooperative-based model to improve farmers' lives. Strengths of this technology include how technological leapfrogging to the blockchain-based app is easier since there is no legacy infrastructure to integrate with. They're designing appropriate technology for the bottom of the pyramid, similar to the pilot projects conducted in Papua New Guinea. And they have abundant financial resources as they obtain funding from a multitude of sources including NGOs, African DB, Asian DB, and USAID. Weaknesses include how the pricing model is not scalable. This is because they are providing free phones to all farmers and due to the high costs associated with transactions done on the blockchain. Secondly, the product is not secure against fraud. If a farmer loses their phone and someone gains access to it, they can act on the farmer's behalf. Lastly, the product was not built for people who cannot read. Opportunities for this technology involve how Sub-Saharan Africa has a sizable market, wherein agriculture contributes up to 50% of the GDP in some countries. A huge potential exists to reduce food waste, where 57% of food is wasted between production and consumption. Sub-Saharan Africa also has the fastest growing internet penetration rate. Threats to AgriLedger include how the blockchain industry is fairly new, and blockchain-based apps are vulnerable to a regulatory crackdown by the government. The success of such an app is heavily dependent on the adoption rate of the technology by the farmers. Finally, as blockchain is not a mature technology, there may be technical issues that arise. Proposed go-to-market strategy will provide for the product, price, promotion, and place. For product recommendations, a detailed user profile can be created, an active marketplace can be encouraged, an informative bulletin board can be deployed, and a text-to-speech feature can be implemented. The user profile can contain information about the farmer and their business profile. This can be used in the future as a digital proof of identity. The app can function as an online marketplace where users can advertise and sell their farm products, as well as post reviews and chat with other buyers and sellers. Pricing model: it is recommended that they maintain the practice of supplying phones and pre-installed apps for free to gain market share and user acceptance. Income generation will follow with the sale of pumps, solar kits, and microloans. To gain additional funding, impact investment funds such as EWB Ventures can be approached to raise more capital. To promote the product, AgriLedger can partner with major mobile network operators and telecommunication service providers such as MTN, Safaricom, and Telcom to distribute the app. Volunteers from local NGOs can organize training workshops for first-time users to teach them how to use the app. The app can be advertised through existing NGOs, billboards, print media, radio stations, TV, and word of mouth amongst current users of the app. When looking for markets to enter, the app will be most successful in regions that have a strong agricultural economy with low income per capita, good internet infrastructure, wide smartphone coverage, and regions where cooperative organizations are already in place. A widespread rollout is most promising in Kenya, which has a large agricultural economy, low-income residents, adequate mobile network infrastructure, and an active support network for smallholder farmers. Kenya also has existing mobile money management systems such as M-Pesa, which can be integrated into AgriLedger to deliver more payment options and easier use for the farmers. To measure the success of the app, 3 primary impact indicators are proposed. The first is net income, which will illustrate the net additional economic value accrued to targeted farmers. The second is scale, which measures the number of targeted farmers relative to the percentage of the village population who realize the financial benefit. The third is user retention, being the amount of users who keep using the app once it has been given to them. Here's how it can be done. AgriLedger can monitor the price changes for goods using in-app data to determine if the value of farmers' goods are increasing, since the transactions are publicly viewed. An evaluation can be conducted of income changes and user retention for those using the app and compared to those not using the app. Farmers can be interviewed to see what worked and what didn't. Based on the above collected data, AgriLedger should employ an agile development model to create fixes, rapidly prototype, and deploy to pilot groups. Overall, AgriLedger certainly faces some tough challenges, but Sub-Saharan Africa is rapidly evolving towards a more digital and connected marketplace. This blockchain-based solution could potentially revolutionize the supply chain and generate significant additional income to lift smallholder farmers such as Muruki